All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today, and welcome to Blue Triangle's product training this week. So today we're going to talk about error state tracking within synthetic monitoring. To me, it's one of the most important parts of configuring a new synthetic monitor. This is where you can set the conditions required to trigger an alert and consider the monitor in error state. The configuration also affects the coloring of the dashboards, in particular the synthetic performance overview dashboard. So there you can see the status of your monitor at a glance. So in this session, we'll discuss the error state tracking configuration and then walk through how to use the synthetic performance overview dashboard for day-to-day monitoring and investigating issues. So my name is Mark Heidemann. I'm the support manager here at Blue Triangle, and we do these training sessions on Thursdays each week about a variety of topics centered around web performance and ultimately how to use Blue Triangle to solve problems. So let's go ahead and get started with today's session. So here's a bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus on the error state tracking configuration and the synthetic performance overview dashboard. So part of the error state tracking configuration, I've kind of listed out the options here just to give you an idea of what you can do. There's a look back period that you can configure, and within that look back period you can set the number of errors or percentage of errors required to trigger an alert. Another condition you can set is the minimum number of node locations. You can also set the number of test runs with errors, and you can define whether they must be consecutive or not. Now, on the synthetic performance overview dashboard, the primary widget we'll be discussing is called the error tracking and performance widget. This gives you a red, amber, and green monitor status bar next to each of the monitors, along with a little trend of page speed performance. There are also a couple of cool customizations you can make to the widget to suit your needs. And then another really nice feature is you can actually click on the bar, the status and performance bar, and drill into the individual test results during that time period. Now, there's some other dashboard features that are pretty nice, and I'll be mentioning those as well. But overall, these are the things we're going to be focusing on today. What I'm going to do now is actually jump right into Blue Triangle, and we're going to walk through these things. So let me open up Blue Triangle here. All right. So right now I'm on the synthetic monitor configuration or management page, and you can get there a couple of ways. In the settings menu, there is a synthetic section, and you can click synthetic monitors. This search appears really nice as well. You can just search for synthetic monitors, and that'll highlight this link here. You can also, if you're in the menu over here to the left, you can click on synthetic monitoring and go to manage, and then click synthetic monitors here. So for today's walkthrough, we're going to create a single page real browser monitor and walk through the error state tracking conditions and talk through a couple of different scenarios on how you might use this. So we're going to create a single page real browser monitor. We're going to call it the Blue Triangle website. We're actually going to use this URL right here. We will leave it to running indefinitely. I'm just going to fill out a few fields here. We can paste that in there. Call it the Blue Triangle website. And all of the defaults look fine. It'll run every 15 minutes from, let's say, 5 locations in the United States. we'll just choose all of those. Actually, to make this a little easier, let's say 3 locations every 15 minutes. So that brings us down to the error tracking configuration. Now, there's really not a ton of fields here. It's just a matter of how you set them in order to really tune your synthetic monitors to give you actionable alerts and show red in the dashboards when it's actually a real issue. All right, so the first thing is the timing window rolling. So this is going to default to your frequency. However, I like to expand it out a bit just to make sure we're getting enough samples during the this timing window rolling or look back period. So in this case, I'm going to expand it to 30 minutes. So in 30 minutes, we should be getting at least 6 measurements, right? If we're running every 15 minutes from 3 locations, we should have at least 6 in 30 minutes. So we're going to set that to 30 minutes there. Now over to the right, there's error state tracking. This allows you to set whether you want to alert via runs or a percentage of runs. So this is going to basically calculate the availability if it's a percentage, or it will just list out the number of errors if you set it to runs. The next thing here is the minimum node locations. So in this case, we have it running from 3 locations to so to make a bit of a more thorough check, we could set that to 2 locations. If you want to be a little more sensitive, you can just set it to 1 location. And then the primary configuration over here to the right is how many runs with errors before you consider this in error state and trigger an alert. You can also define whether or not these errors must be consecutive. All right, so we'll just set this to 1 for now. And those 4-5 pieces of configuration are really the main things you can manipulate here to tune your alerts. So if we're getting some noise from 1 location, maybe we can set that to 2 locations to really require it to be a more widespread error in order to get an alert and in order for the dashboard to appear red. So by default, there isn't any notification groups or recipients emails defined to receive these alerts, so there actually won't be any alerts unless you specify them. However, this information up here will control whether the coloring of the dashboard. I always recommend including your email address, or if you have a notification group, you can set that there, just so you're getting these alerts if you're not, if you don't have your dashboard up all the time. So aside from those things, there's a couple more kind of error tracking configuration pieces here. As far as the alerts goes, you can enable reminders, and if you choose that, you can set the interval of which you can be reminded if your monitor remains in critical or warning or error state. You can also configure the monitor to immediately retry the test on failure. So that essentially validates the error, prevents false positives. So that's a nice feature. Content errors are when here you can specify if there are any resource failures. For example, there's an image that threw a 404 and didn't load. Enabling content errors allows you to set the entire test as a failure if any of the content on the page fails. And then there's page text verification. So this is an additional step you can take to say, in order for the test to be successful, not only do we need to get a 200 response from the base page, we need to see Blue Triangle on the home page, or maybe you have some error handling for any 404 or 403 type of errors. In that case, we would want to look for some text that indicates the page did not load properly. So for example, you might get a 200 response, but the page technically was maybe 404. And so we know that when that happens, there's text on the page that says the page you're looking for could not be found, for example. I'm going to just scroll down, kind of skim over these other configurations, and we're going to go ahead and create this monitor. So the next piece of this is we're going to open up the synthetic performance overview dashboard and talk about day-to-day monitoring of these things. Okay? So you can get there under synthetic monitoring. There's Rail Browser, which is what we just created. The cool thing about this is no matter what kind of synthetic monitor you have, we do have this same overview dashboard for each of those monitor types. But for this, we're just going to look at the Rail Browser performance overview. And you're not going to see the monitor I just created just yet. It'll take a moment to pop up in this dashboard, but I do have a couple of monitors already configured. And to give you a high-level kind of walkthrough of this dashboard, we're looking at the last 6 hours, which you can configure here to any of these options. Or if you're looking for maybe doing some historical data analysis, you can look at a custom date selection, which will open up the time period over here, and you can choose the exact time frame that you want to see. Otherwise, you can set it to any of these options here. I'll go back to the last 6 hours, and we're going to resume the auto refresh, and you can change the refresh rate in this drop down right here as well. Yeah, well, we'll leave it at 30 minutes for now, just so the dashboard isn't updating while I'm trying to walk through it today. All right, so like I mentioned, this is the error tracking and performance widget. This is really the highlight of this dashboard. So this shows you each of your enabled synthetic monitors along with a bar to the right indicating the performance and availability. So the performance is this line here going through, and obviously the availability is the coloring of the bar. Now there's a few things to point out here that are really nice features. Of course, you get an average performance over here, as well as a last measured performance and how that compares to the average. There is a few links over here to the left. There's a link to view this monitor in the performance detail page. So by clicking that, it will link you over to this page and automatically select the monitor name and the time period that you were just looking at. So that's a nice feature there. This gear icon allows you to go in to configure the monitor settings. So if you wanted to make a quick change to the error tracking configuration or any other setting, you could do that with that gear icon here. And this lightning bolt allows you to run an instant measurement, which is a nice tool to be able to validate errors. In addition to the retry on error feature, you're able to run a quick measurement manually and see for yourself the current status of your site or your web page. So by doing that, you're able to pick a location. we'll say Washington, D.C., click confirm, and you can go in and see the results of that. So I'll show you that briefly in a second while that completes. A couple of other really nice things. Up here to the left, you can actually choose what metric is displayed. Here is this line. So by default, it's onload, but you can choose any of the available synthetic metrics. Largest contentful paint, time to interactive, first contentful paint, any of the options here. And then up here to the right, you can do a couple of configuration things with this widget. So if you click that gear icon, you can go in and set the height of the graphs. You can see how that changes. If you don't have very many monitors, you can blow that up to make it nice and easy to read. You can also set the space between the graphs. If you have tons of these, you can squish them together so you can fit everything on one screen. Now, I don't remember what the default was. We'll set it to that. Also, prioritize monitors in error state. This means where it shows no monitors currently in error state, if there was a monitor in error state, it would not only show red in the bar down here, but it would also show all of this information bubbled up into this orange box, and that'll highlight the monitors that are currently in error state. And the other thing is you can show or hide the metrics over there to the right. Alright, so a couple more things about this dashboard. There's this performance by geography widget. You can choose the metric from the list here, and you can click in to view the individual states in the United States, for example, or if it's a region, you can view the subregions. You'll see that in RUM as well, and it'll kind of light up the map a little bit more. Down below, we have the performance overview for all pages. This is just a tabular view, kind of a summary, averages of all of the pages that you're measuring. So this demo e-commerce checkout path is a multi-step synthetic monitor, so you'll see all of the pages that make up that monitor here, as well as our single page monitor demo homepage. And then down at the bottom, the last widget here is the performance breakdown. So here you can look at the data by country, agent location, and browser. You can change the metrics that shows up here in this graph by clicking these legend options. So that's a nice feature as well. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention is the ability to click on this bar and drill into the test results. So I don't have any red on the dashboard right now, but in the event we did, or if we see a spike in performance, you can actually click there on the bar, and that links you over to the synthetic test results with 30 minutes on either side of that time period with that monitor name selected. So in this case, I chose the checkout path monitor, and each of these are the individual test results. And if you click this expand button, you're able to see all of the individual steps in that script. You can also drill into more details by clicking that waterfall icon. And this is where you can get all of the details about this particular synthetic test, including the object level detail waterfall, function tracing information, the HAR file, screenshot and film strip, and test event log, and there's some others here as well. Alright, so and we can go back over to this instant measurement and check that out. So this is what that instant measurement test result would look like. Oh, and one last thing. Let me show you what an email of the alert looks like. So this is an alert I got a while back. Just wanted to show you for demo purposes. So what we're seeing here is there's a critical synthetic alert for the demo e-commerce checkout path monitor, and it says that there have been one error, which reaches the error threshold based on the configured settings. So you can see the error conditions down here, as well as the configuration of the alert down here as well. Now the coolest part of this is it shows you the exact pages that were failing during this time window. So it gives you the response code, the command, and the target if applicable. In this case, we're looking for some text to be present. That text has been added to your cart, and at this time we weren't seeing that text, so this triggered an error. And another thing is this link here takes you into the portal. Here you can see the test results during this time window. It was a 15-minute time period, and we can see this one failure here. You can drill in, look at the screenshot, look at the test event log, the HAR file, and really dig into what contributed to this error here. Alrighty, so I think that's everything I had to share with you guys today. Again, the error state tracking and the synthetic performance overview work hand in hand. The error conditions defined in the monitor affect the coloring of the dashboard here, as well as when you will get alerts. You can also click through from this bar into the test results and do further analysis from there.